All right, thank you so much for staying with the Monday Report. You're just in time for the Town Hall session. Like I promised earlier on, this is a session where the people get to ask the questions concerning the BBI to the steering committee. And they're here with me. I'll start by introducing from my immediate right, Paul Mwangi, Joint Secretary, BBI Steering Committee. Thank you so much for making time. And Adam Zolo, Vice Chairperson and also member of the BBI Steering Committee. Thank you for making time as well. As promised, keep your views coming. 22422 is the SMS line at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. I will not be asking any questions. It's the people who will ask the BBI Steering Committee, right? Let's kick it off from here. Jerotich, you have the microphone. You go first.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and my name is Jerotich, but first and foremost, I want to extend my condolences to the families of those who have lost children in the Kakamega Primary School incident this evening. It's tragic, it's heartbreaking. May the souls of these children rest in peace, and may we also come to the heart of the matter of what actually happened in Kakamega today. I just want to ask the panelists, or the two gentlemen here today, what happened to the process? How was it hijacked by politicians? How did it move from this concerted effort to gather views from Kenyans into a popularization agenda? For me, when I study the report carefully, I see there are many things that give pause for concern, especially the question of the Prime Minister. When I look at that page 51 and 52, although the Prime Minister appears to be a rather humble individual who will be drawn from the members of Parliament, from among the members of Parliament, this person holds a very powerful position, is responsible for a lot of leadership execution, and actually his or her principal secretary will be responsible for chairing the technical committee of the other principal secretaries in the government. And these principal secretaries will not be subjected to any kind of vetting. So I ask myself, when you have such, shall I say, nefarious or even insidious insertions into the document, and we're not taking the time as Kenyans to understand that when you have unvetted principal secretaries who run government business under the command of the Prime Minister, what are we saying about accountability, about corruption, about those types of things? But we're not studying these things. We're actually just out there politicking. It has become a campaign between Tanga Tanga and Kieleweke. Kieleweke joined by ODM and other former NASA members. So it really gives me pause for thought and says and tells me it tells me very clearly that this is not about Kenyans. This is not about Wanjiku. This is about succession. There's nothing that the BBI report has made serious reference to that the Constitution of Kenya 2010 would not have been able to adequately address. So for me, this is the question. We're not discussing it as Kenyans. We're not allowed to get deeply into it. We're busy following the road shows, the patriarchal road shows, if I may call them that, because this is just men up there discussing and singing about how it's BBI or the highway. So please, tell me more about how we jumped from this report. And I'd even like to know how Kenyans themselves came up with such intricate technicalities around the Prime Minister's position, for example. Never mind issues of the IEBC. The IEBC that would be running this so-called fait accompli referendum that has not been reformed, that is the source of so much electoral injustice. So I'm curious to understand finally how we as Kenyans are going to input effectively into some of these issues that continue to affect us.
Paul.
Let me start with the issue of the Prime Minister. The introduction of the Office of the Prime Minister came about because first there was a need to expand the executive arm of government so that more people can feel involved in governance, and not just expand the executive arm of government, but also validate and give honor to opposition. We were in a position where the person who wins the election becomes the all in terms of governance. We had gotten rid of the issue of the office of the official leader of the opposition. We had gotten rid of issues of having shadow ministers who keep government in check. And the entire government structure had all surrounded itself around the presidency. The call that was there was that we need a situation in which more people feel involved in governance, and also that people who lose elections don't just go home, also come in and participate as opposition in government. So in line with the issue of the Prime Minister is also the issue of the leader of the opposition. Now, in respect of the principal secretaries, the people who are responsible and accountable in that government is the Prime Minister and his ministers, because they are seated now in the House and they can be voted out on a vote of no confidence. Now, if they are the people who have to answer for government, then you can't have another layer of accountability, whereby you have PSs on one hand also being answerable to the same House and can be voted out by the same House, and then at the same time you have their bosses, the Prime Minister and the Cabinet Secretaries, also answering to the same thing. So we had to choose one level of accountability where you said any messes that are done have to be owned up by the government that is in the House. And therefore, it is up to them to ensure that the principal secretaries are performing, remove those who are not performing, because at the end of the day, their failure to perform, you will answer for it in the House through a vote of no confidence. I'll then touch on the issue of where we are now. What unfortunately is not coming out is that every political rally that we are seeing taking place is taking place after a delegates conference has taken place. In each of the places where you have seen a rally, the previous day or a few days before, there has been a delegates conference. And it is a whole day conference in which BBI experts have attended, have taken people through the report, have had discussions with them. And in each of those meetings, we have had resolutions passed. These are the resolutions you see being read out at the political rallies. So don't mistake the political rallies to be what the BBI is involved in.
Who
the
chooses
BBI
those
business
delegates,
had
Paul?
been done the previous day, and resolution had been passed. And most of the time, we might attend for purposes of receiving the report, but we are not part of those.
But who chooses the delegates that you're talking about?
Everybody is forming their own conversations. In Kitui, in Mombasa, all the county governments had come together.
So it's the governors who are choosing the delegates then, which is still an extension of the political
They come and decide the people they will bring for the discussion.
Yeah.
And we come and attend that discussion that is taking place. It's not the only discussion that is taking place. There will be other discussions in the same place that will go on taking place. And we are also going ourselves to the same places to say anybody now who never had a chance to talk, we are here ourselves.
Doesn't that justify the idea that there's a predetermined outcome? Because if the governors are the ones who choose the delegates, then they'll sing their tune. In fact,
this is a consultative forum.
Now that there was mobilization money that was not shared equally, right?
This is a consultative forum that is constituted by the governors. And it's not the only one. It's not the official one. Anybody can have their own consultation. And we issued a statement and said we shall attend every conversation that is held.
Okay.
And in our report, we ask people, have conversations, organize yourself, whether in churches or in mosques, and call us and tell us if you are engaged in any conversation. Yeah. And we said we shall be part of that conversation.
Okay.
But
Kennedy, I
to
see
wrap
you have
it
a
up,
question.
we have also said that we shall also come and have forums for BBI forums in which we pick up.
Kennedy, hold your thoughts for a bit. Let's get Samson Waweru. Samson, what's your question?
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Samson Waweru. I'm the chairman of Kenya Society for the Blind, a statutory charitable non-governmental organization established by an Act of Parliament of 1956. Our mandate is to help in the training, employment, education, and welfare of blind and visually impaired people all over the country. We have over 450,000 totally blind people who depend on Braille to access information as espoused in Article 54 of the Constitution. Over 650,000 low vision people who depend on large print and assistive glasses so that they can be able to read these reports. We've heard of the BBI. We've not had it in Braille, and our members are calling us to ask us when it's going to come out, same as the large print. We are also concerned that the Constitution now has given us a lot of privileges, like the nominated seats in the county assemblies, and where it specifically espouses that at least 2 representatives will be nominated in each county assembly. Now, that was true in 2013 elections, whereby we had 2 representatives with disabilities in all the 47 counties. In 2017, we only had 8 counties having 2 representatives of persons with disabilities, 22 counties with 1 representatives, and 17 counties they didn't nominate any person to represent interests of people with disabilities.
Okay.
Our question is, what is different that this BBI is advocating for to help the political parties comply with what is given to vulnerable and special interest seats? Thank you very much.
All right, Olo.
Let me start by answering Waweru that indeed that's a concern that also concerns BBI, that persons with disabilities, as a country, we have not treated persons with disabilities. We've given them some tokens in the Constitution, but as a people behaviorally, we've not done enough. And if you go to the issues that we call the notable issues, before we go to the 9 thematic areas, we take account of that. To your direct question that what does BBI say to what political parties will do, we are saying that one of the issues we have found out is that at times political parties first decide for persons with disabilities who they nominate for them. And we are saying that persons with disabilities within those parties, if they are in those parties, should be the ones to determine who shall be nominated as opposed to the party determining it for them. In addition to that, we have been made aware that there are political parties who at times have nominated people who the society feels that are not disabled by measure that the society thinks of. And we are basically saying that administratively, because it is IEBC that comes, when it comes to nomination, to process the same, should come out clearly with a formula that ensures that that is met.
All right.
So, yeah.
There's a team that came all the way from Kisii. Let me see by a show of hands. Guys who traveled all the way from Kisii, I see it's the front line. Can just kindly pass the microphone to him and let's hear. We'll start with your name, sir, and then ask your question.
Okay, my name is Eric Nyakenya Mokwa. I come from Kisii County, Chuniwad. My major concerns in this BBI report, I'm one of the delegates who attended the start of the train, as they called it. But
how are you selected?
I do not have a specific formula that they used to reach me out. Maybe they had to find 4 people in the community.
So who called you?
I was called by the secretariat of BBI.
Okay.
And actually, I stand in a position in ODM. Basically, maybe that's where they must have chosen me from, to be very straight up.
All right.
Okay. I did not see any paperwork during the Kisii BBI rally, which was the first rally.
Yeah.
But we show resolutions at the end of the day, of which resolutions we did not raise. We want to be very categorical about this. We show resolutions being read, of which resolutions we did not come up with. So I sometimes believe something took up the entire.
So you're saying you're a delegate?
Yes, I was
you
a
did
delegate.
not come up with the resolutions that were finally read out to the BBI.
There was no such a time when delegates were allowed to raise their points.
So you were also surprised by the resolutions that apparently
exactly
came
because
from you.
we were taken through the BBI report by the experts, and we were told only the good things about the BBI report. I'm not worried talking about this in the national TV because this is a reality. BBI, if there is anything to do with the constitution, is going to affect my children and children of my children if we cannot change it anytime soon. Okay. So basically, a few questions which I have, which are actually concerning the youth. I heard my friends say they have not got the same stuff in Braille. Yeah. We have not got even the hard copies in my home village.
Okay.
Everybody's asking me, you are going for the BBI discussion, can you give us one of the copies? And they don't have such copies. Okay. So that is one failure of we are banking on something which we actually don't know.
Okay.
They are talking about, the stories are here, that there is a tax holiday for the youth, 7 years.
Yes.
When does it start? If you are 34, will it run plus 7 years? Starting 34. All it is supposed to be from 35 minus 7, such that you started somewhere 27. So I don't know this 7, if you are a youth at 20 and you have started a business,
okay,
the tax holiday will end at 27. Is this thing realistic? I'm asking the two gentlemen. is that tax holiday something realistic?
Okay.
Okay, you are also expanding you are actually, I can call it creating job opportunities for some other people from other communities to bring about what we call inclusivity. And we have some other positions which you have called, there are things about intersex, because I'm not very clear about what I'm speaking, but I'm speaking from the village. I'm trying to represent the villagers, the mothers back at the village, the young youths back at the village who are asking, what is this? Nobody can stop like that.
Okay.
So, my question here is, how is this thing assisting a common Mwananchi?
Okay.
We are talking about elective injustices. We are talking about the national ethos. We are talking about inclusivity.
Yeah.
Here we had that 5% of the contracts in the counties which are supposed to have gone to the youth. Can we have anything populated showing us that the youths were represented? Actually, they did those contracts.
Okay.
Or they were paid.
All right.
Okay, my last question I want to ask. I want to talk about most of our graduates who have come out from university. Help is following them. And here they have a tax holiday. How are these two things working?
Okay.
How can you start paying help and yet you have never been employed with the same certificates? So we want to know a few things which really touch common Mwananchi, which are enshrined in the same BBI report, which is going to make an adjustment to our constitution.
All right.
Asiwezi kataa kuwa, if you employ a guard at your place and you tell him nobody enters this gate before past 10, and you are another nobody who is coming there, so you can change the rules. I'm not against BBI all changing the making amendments in the constitution.
Right.
If it can only fit my mother in the village, my grandmother in the village, all of us feel represented, that inclusivity becomes there. That those stories about land, the land issues, we need to know that can it be realistic that that land somewhere along the road can be taken back to the owners. Some other public land which was taken, which was grabbed, can those title deeds be reversed? Is it realistic? Thank you.
We got your question. I'm trying to give you as many opportunities as possible. Kindly be brief with your questions. But Paul, how do you explain a delegate being surprised by the resolutions that apparently came from them?
That I find surprising, because what would happen is the delegates would come and would have a discussion, and there would be a rapporteur who would be picking what people are saying, and it is from the rapporteur that you get the the trend of the discussion, and the rapporteur is able to know the consensus and towards what end most of the people are going by. And the rapporteur then does the resolutions. That listening to this entire group, I think this is what you're saying. So it is at that point, if we had any objection, that he would object to a particular resolution and say that I have heard you saying that this is the direction the discussion was going, but I don't agree with you.
But he's
and if it is necessary, that is the way, that is the protocol on which all meetings are conducted. And then if it is necessary, and you have objected to a particular resolution, then the rapporteur would have to find out whether the majority of people support that or don't support it. But if the general thing would be that a rapporteur would pick the general trend of all discussions, come up with what he thinks is the resolution that everybody is going to, and then read them.
Are you concerned that the rapporteur might change the resolutions and give you something already predetermined by the governor?
That is why they are read, and I am sure they were read. And that is why he's saying that to him, they were not reflecting what
were they read out?
Discussion. They must have been read, because that is what he said.
Were they read out to you, yes or no?
At the end of the day, they read what they had.
Did you object?
We were not given such opportunities to object. There were no times for the participation of the other people seated the other side, we the delegates. It was read, we were taken through the BBI report, and thereafter, what they did, they went to our political class, who actually gave, or actually cemented the whole thing.
How many people here have sat on a delegation that is reviewing the BBI? By show of hands, just him. Okay. Kennedy has been there. Yes.
The fact that what you thought should go into the resolution was not there doesn't stop you from bringing a memorandum to the task force. It doesn't close you out. It's still open. This is the conversation. If you go to paragraph 23, of our report, we are saying that we are inviting Kenyans to a national conversation. If, in your view, you feel that the politicians have ran with the other conversation, you can still organize and caucus as a group, as a youth, as a civil society group, as a women group, as a stakeholder, and invite us that we feel the politicians have ran away with the other one. We want you to hear our voice, and we shall come to you, or you shall write to us, and we shall take your view aboard. So don't leave the conversation only to the politicians. You are a Kenyan. You have a stake in this conversation.
Okay.
We will hear.
Mr. Mwangi, you also asked about his mother in the village. What's in it for the common Mwananchi?
I think that the entire report of BBI is meant to benefit the Mwananchi and the common Mwananchi. And I don't think you can say it's not for the rich people. If you're tackling corruption, you cannot say that we are tackling corruption to benefit the rich people. If you're talking about fighting cartels especially fighting cartels in agriculture, those are things that go with the common person, because who is suffering when all these ills are taking place? It is the common people who suffer. So you should not look at the BBI report as something that has a classification and say that this is for rich people and this is for poor people. The working of the entire report, the greatest beneficiary of it is going to be the common person.
So how will the tax break apply? Another question that he asked. If you're 34, does it take you beyond when you're the youth?
I think now those are the discussions that we are receiving, and that is the discussion we are involved in. We have proposed that we are going to give the seven-year holiday, which would run so long as you're a young person and you have started the business. Then the 7-year tax holiday would apply to any person who has started the business as a young person. Now, how that will end up in the law depends on the conversations that we are having now, because there will be economists who will come and possibly raise questions against it and say that we should graduate it so that, as you say, if you're 35 and you start a business, you possibly should have a shorter tax holiday. Okay. There will be all different views before we eventually come to how the law will look like. But from what we propose, the discussion is now on to start looking at how the final law will look like.
All right. We tried
saying that in this phase, other than having a report of recommendations, we are going to have a report that is divided into policy issues, into administrative issues, into legislative statutory issue, and into constitutional issues. So I think the gentleman went ahead and was asking us, can you tell us exactly how the 7-year tax holiday will be implemented? That's where we are now. And let me say this, based on what Jerotich had asked. I think as a country, at times we fall in the same trap. Jerotich was saying, how did the Prime Minister, people start discussing it? And she fell into the same trap that the whole country has fallen into. This is a 156-page document. The Prime Minister is only in 2 pages. So we've left the rest of the document, and we are talking about the Prime Minister. Who will talk about the other 150-plus pages? It's supposed to be us.
Yeah, Jerotich has a right of reply for that because your name was mentioned directly. Yeah.
I'm not in a trap. I have actually read the entire document, 156 pages. And this is why I have, on national TV and in other fora, said that the BBI document is a Trojan horse. It is full of wonderful things that you say apply to Wanjiku, that will transform the life of young people, of persons with disabilities, of minorities. But in actual fact, when you open the belly of this beast called the Trojan horse, this wonderful document full of amazing things for Kenyans, in there lies succession politics. The BBI document for me is all about ensuring that power passes on the way a certain group of the political class have determined it. So you might try to patronize me and tell me that I've fallen into a trap. In fact, the trap that people have fallen into is saying that, oh, we want a more powerful prime minister. I'm saying as is, page 51 and 52, that prime minister is extremely powerful because he or she will be a behind-the-scenes individual while you have an executive president. And the question I was saying is, who came up with this? Which Wanjiku, which Mora, which Chepkoech, which Kimani sat there and told you as the task force initially that we want a prime minister and we want the prime minister's role nuanced in X, Y, and Z manner? And this is where I have big issue, because I say this ultimately was not cooked by me or by anybody else over here.
And that's my issue with you. That's my issue with you, because you've opened the belly, the so-called Trojan horse. You've picked the kidney. You are focusing on that kidney.
I have not,
What about the lung? What about...
I have looked at the lung, the kidneys, the liver, the intestines. In fact, before you open the belly, you have studied the animal, and that's why I call it a Trojan horse, something that has moved into a city, this city called Kenya, saying this is a wonderful thing for all Kenyans. But all that the BBI is doing is covering this particular thing called succession.
I see a lot of
call it
hands
anything you want to call it.
Yeah,
so I completely disagree with you, sir.
Okay.
So if
I see a lot of hands being raised, but I need to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll give you a chance to ask your questions, but please be short and straight to the point, because I want to get as many points as possible. But now, we're taking a quick break. We'll see. Wow, it's over half past the hour already, but we're getting your views on Monday Report. That's the hashtag 22422 is the SMS line. I'll sample some of them right after this break. Stay with us.